Hey man, we've got guys back here playing Madden, so you never know what's about to pop up in this place. So if it gets loud, that means all the boys are coming in here around 3:30, 4 o'clock to get some games in. But hey, this Chat with Gunner, episode 151. Kyle Graves reached out to me through a comment last week. I was asking about conspiracies and who's the conspiracy guys that I know on the interwebs, and then you raised your hand. You said, "Hey man, throw me in the game. Let's see what we got. I'll talk about anything, and I'll keep it entertaining." So, dude, thanks for coming on the show, and I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So you're with Synergy Freight. Did you create Synergy Freight, or is that your business?
Yeah, so kind of the little bit of background on Synergy Freight, how we got started. It's going to sound really crazy, but some people may know the event Burning Man, which happens out in the desert with about 100,000 people. And, I go every year. And after 2019, I wasn't happy with my job. I was in logistics, worked for a big billion-dollar company, but just didn't feel fulfilled at the end of the day. Didn't go home and feel like I did something good. So ended up leaving to start my own business after going to Burning Man. And just started with $2,000 in my pocket. It was really a financially stupid decision at the time, but I just kind of bet it all on black, spun the wheel, and said, "Let's see what happens." So we've grown a lot since then, and still run the business out of my bedroom. So we're not like a big company. We don't try and act like a big company. I always tell people we're the average Joe's gymnasium. Everybody else is kind of the global gyms. So we don't try and really compete with like the CH Robinsons and TQLs of the world. We try to give people personalized service. And, I'd say 90% of our customers just single source with us. They're small businesses. So we don't have a bunch of big logos. We don't have a bunch of big enterprise clients, nothing like that. Just a bunch of small guys taking care of small customers.
Hey, everyone matters, right? It doesn't matter if you're small or you're big. So Burning Man, let's turn the page back a little bit. I know a little bit about Burning Man. Obviously, you know more than I do, like since you've experienced it. For the listeners that might not know what Burning Man is, give a Spark Notes edition of Burning Man and why you went down there and your experience with that, because I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, so Burning Man, they term it as a human experiment. It's not really an event per se, but really Burning Man is whatever you're looking for it to be. So when I went to it in 2019, I was looking for answers on my job, my work, what direction did I want to go? It's a big event. There's lots of different music there, from rock and roll, blues, hip hop, rap, dance music, things like that. It's thrown for the people, by the people. All the people who attend are participants. So I'm a part of a camp. We have camp events. We do camp things. We have music. And it's really a place, I think the best way to explain it is a place where anything that you can think of and dream of, you can do as long as you do it. So if you want to bring a hot tub and set up a hot tub there, you can do it. If you want to set up a runway and have a fashion show, you can do it. It's really whatever you make it to be. And that's why it's so special. It's a place where, you could bring your mom. My mom's a teacher. I could bring her. She'd go find a bunch of teachers and people who do childhood education. You'd have TED Talks about how you can be more impactful with your kids and your school and things like that. So it's really whatever you want it to be. A lot of people think it's a music festival, and it kind of is. But it's really just a place where you can go to find yourself and kind of answer some of those questions in life as far as, why are you here? Why do you wake up every day? Why do you do what you do? It's really a place to answer that question.
So we live in a day and age where a lot of things, I believe, are more open and honest, and people are willing to have these conversations, and you don't get looked at in a weird way. And I'm about to go through the rabbit hole of like psychedelics and that whole thing. And I think a lot of this has came through like Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
He was one of the first guys to really take it mainstream. When he started talking about mushrooms, people were like, "What are you talking about? Weed's okay. Mushrooms? What? Calm down, bro." And then all this science came out, and it's like, well, actually, microdosing mushrooms is helping guys that come back from the wars with PTSD. And this is proven science at this point. So now you're looking at it for CTE when it comes to sports and head trauma and concussions and using it to put off Alzheimer's and all this stuff. So I'm assuming at Burning Man, if you can have a runway and a teacher conference and a TED Talk and a concert, you can probably have some experimental things down there to let you really find yourself. Is it kind of like that DMT ayahuasca type of Peru trip where you're really going to find the maker and figure out who put the algorithm in this machine and find the aliens? Or is it more of like, I'm gonna go get around some more like-minded people, let loose, ask some questions, and see what these mentors tell me, and see if I can find some people in network? Or is it a little bit of combination of both? Hey, let's go let wild, let's see what happens, and if we meet some cool people along the way, let's get some of their advice as well. Kind of dive a little deeper.
Yeah, so great question. I would say that it's really both. Again, it's what you want it to be. There's obviously certain things there that I have done that I have never done anywhere else, and I probably won't do anywhere else. There's certain things that just kind of fit there better. But it really is what you just said. Finding like-minded people, talking to them. It's exactly that. But it's also finding not like-minded people. My first year, I went into a very liberal kind of TED talk with people who are probably very far left. There's a lot of people from California there, and I don't necessarily lean that way on most things. And it was interesting to me where in the regular public space, there's a lot of division, a lot of left, right, red, blue, a lot of fighting. And I think that one of the special parts was I kind of brought up how I didn't quite lean the same way as some of the people that were there giving the TED talk and talking about things. And instead of people being like, "Oh, you're conservative, you're not us," blah blah blah, they actually came up to me, gave me a hug, said, "Hey, I really appreciate your opinion. Appreciate that you're here. We appreciate other people's perspective." So I think it's about finding like-minded people, but also people from different walks of life. I think we're all products of our environment. We've all had different environments throughout our lives, so we're all going to have different perspectives, and everybody's perspective is valuable. So that's really what it's about, is coming together with a different group of people, a diverse group of people, and trying to learn more about the other side of the coin. We have an easy time thinking about ourselves a lot, but thinking about the other person on the other side, how they feel, how they perceive it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, man. That's interesting. I've always wanted to do the Peru trip, like the ayahuasca, literally go find yourself and figure out who created the universe type of trip. And
Yeah.
I'm probably going to do that. Like that's going to happen one of these days. And some other things, but I think it's really cool that you went and did that. I think it's cool that from that gave you the confidence and the decision to go out and start your own business, which is Synergy Freight. So walk me through that process, because a lot of people out there don't know what it takes to start their own LLC or their own business, specifically starting a freight business. What were the first hurdles you went through? Like you get back from Burning Man, what's the first thing you do to get your freight business set up?
First thing I did, quit my job as a broker, on the operations side. A lot of times when you're working for a company, they might have non-competes, non-solicits, things like that. And it's hard to kind of get away from that, and it's scary. But sometimes you just have to jump and just make the decision to jump and just trust that something good will happen. And I kind of had worked on the operations side, but got a few clients to our company just to kind of see how the process was, where I passed it over to salespeople. I kind of worked the operations on the account so I could see a little bit more of the full cycle of like, how do you go from a prospect and a customer, then signing them up, paperwork, what do you need to sign them up? What things do you need? And then how do you move their freight profitably to make money? So once I did that a few times, that really gave me some of the confidence. But I would say for people who want to go out, start their own business, being an agent at first is my number one recommendation above everything else. There's a lot of capital constraints when you start off. If you have a new MC, you're not going to be factorable. Companies like Triumph won't work with you for 20, 24 months, maybe a year if you're an amazing talker. But if you're not factorable, then carriers aren't going to work with you. They're not going to haul your freight. So really starting off as an agent is going to be the easiest, cheapest way for you to get started. And I think that you want to also focus on, how do you get to your first 5,000 a month in GP? How do you get to your first 10,000 a month in GP? That's the most important part. And I've mentored a lot of people who have started their own, and that's pretty much the first question I ask them. Where's your first 10,000 in GP coming from? And if you can't confidently answer that, then you need to ask yourself what you're doing. You have to have a plan to get to that first 10,000 a month. And then after that, it's just hiring the right people, putting them in the right places, scaling, making the right processes. That's what it all comes down to, the right people, the right processes, and then you scale.
So, what year did you start Synergy Freight?
2019. So I had the amazing luck of starting like 2 months before COVID happened. And that was probably the scariest part. Just nobody knew what COVID would do or how the world would react. So, I started it right when COVID happened. My first load was Halloween night. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I found a customer on a Facebook group who had Uber picking up a load at 7 o'clock. And they said, the wheel is spinning on Uber. And I said, what does that mean? She said, I don't know. You ever order a car on Uber and it just spins and says looking for a driver? I said, yeah. She said, well, what does that mean? And I said, well, they don't have a driver. So I told her, oh, I'll get you a driver, get you his phone number. You can talk to him. And she said, okay, great. She said, I'll pay you $100 more than Uber if you can do that. So that's kind of how I got started. And yeah, it's been uphill ever since from there. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I would recommend and kind of how I got started and how this all took shape. I started as an agent myself, still am an agent. And I think that being an agent is a really good way to go, at least to get going.
Okay, so you say you're an agent. So do you have an LLC as an agency underneath another company?
Yeah. So, for people who aren't aware, being an agent, it's like being a Remax office, like a real estate agent. You have your own LLC, you have your own payroll, your own employees, your own company. You just kind of run under a larger brand. So you're going to have your own LLC that you have to set up. It's really easy. I would really recommend getting with a CPA, to get started. They'll make sure that you're filling out the right forms, the right tax things. You don't want to get in trouble with that. That's a whole pain in the butt. So I really recommend, starting with a CPA, and they'll be able to file all that stuff pretty cheaply for you. And you can get started as an agent for, $500, $1,000, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, I've got some buddies that did really well at an agency here in town. Yeah, they really well. They crushed it, to be honest with you. So, but I've seen guys have a lot of success with the agent route, but you do have to have customers, or at least have the confidence that you're going to be able to get some customers quick, because it is all commission based. Like for those guys, it was like 70% commission on every dollar of margin you brought into the company. Is that kind of similar to what you guys do?
Exactly what I have, 70% of the margin. And you're right. It's commission only. So if you've never been in a commission only role, if you're going from like a W-2 at a big logistics company, that's the scary part. If you don't kill something that week or that month, you don't get anything. So you want to really have some money set aside. Like I said, I only had $2,000 to my name when I started. I don't recommend it. That's definitely, do as I say, not as I do. But at the same time, if you have confidence in yourself and you do well in this industry, you can do it. It's not too hard. It's not too difficult. And a lot of the big logistics companies don't really offer that much or as much as people would think. A lot of it is really on those frontline workers, which is what I was.
Yeah. So another thing that I see you talk about quite often on LinkedIn after going through your profile and stuff is this annoyance with double brokered loads, people that double broker things. Now, I want to specify, because this can get out of hand. There's double brokering, which is a legal no-no and also just a moral no-no in our business.
Yep.
There's co-brokering, which can be contractual, an understanding agreement between a freight forwarder and a smaller 3PL. Co-brokering is good. But double brokering is a no-no, which happens. And I hate to go these areas, but it seems like LA, Houston, Chicago, those areas seem to kind of have the most double brokers, right? This has been an issue for years. Why do you not like it? What's happened? And what's your stance on the situation?
Yeah, so double brokering is a huge issue in the industry for a few reasons. The main one is that if you have a load that's double brokered, you have a contract with the carrier. They have insurance that you can look up and that you verify. We all use, My Carrier Packets, RMIS, something like that. They're going to verify that they have valid insurance. if they double broker it from a carrier MC to another carrier MC, well, that first carrier, their insurance is going to ask you for things like the VIN number of the truck number, the trailer number when there's an accident. And when that VIN number is not a VIN number that is on that insurance, they're going to deny that claim. So it's a big risk for somebody like myself or you, where if we're hauling freight for a customer, $80,000 load, we could potentially be liable. And of course we have, contingent cargo coverage. Usually we have umbrella policies. We have things like that, but all that stuff's going to make our insurance rates go up. So that's the biggest issue with it. The other issue with double brokering is just from a service standpoint. You're in sales and you want to provide your customer with a good service level. When you have double brokers take a load without having a truck, and then they try and broker the load out, and their operations is not as good or efficient as yours, then they're gonna call you an hour before pickup and say, "Oh man, I got a flat tire. Oh, it broke down.
Turbo went out."
Yeah, turbo went out. Whatever it is. So then somebody like myself or you, we have to call the customer and explain to them that we're not going to pick up their load today. And the reason why is because we got double brokered, and it's basically a coin flip. There's a lot of double brokerages out there that do a good job. I'm not saying that there isn't some that do a good job, but the reason why I'm successful in this industry is really because of the service that we provide, the operations that we have, and just handing that over to some random person to broker out again, you're just asking for trouble. There's a reason why your customer works with you and not Joe Schmo. And if you just hand it over to Joe Schmo to have him handle it, you have no control.
No, you're 100% right. And I have a very similar stance on that matter. I am a fan of co-brokering. It's something that we have done here with a couple of our clients. And when I say that, if you was to get with like an XPO or a Transplace or a Ryder or these large companies, that's pretty much co-brokering. All they're doing is managing freight and pushing it out for the customer. But in theory, that customer is not dealing with it. They're shipping it to you. They're handling it. You're just the middleman for the middleman getting the job done, right? So that's a good way to look at it. But so I am a fan of some of that. But like you said, double brokering out of spite, just to kind of one up somebody, get some freight, solicit somebody else's business, that's a no-no, especially when you fail the freight. If you can find somebody out there that does a really good job at it and you never know, cool. But you're going to find out because it's trucking, too many hands in the pot, too many humans interacting. It's going to mess up at some point and you will find out. And you're right, there is lawsuits. You can get stolen freight, service failures that are going to get you cut off with customers. We have ran into some issues with that, with people taking loads, putting them on the rail. They don't get there for 2 weeks. We have no clue where the freight is because it's not tracked, not GPS. These one-stop shops just kind of disappear during that time, and they come back and they want your money. It's crazy how this all works. And you have to pay them like you do.
Yeah.
Like you have to pay them.
And then the other thing with double brokering that you've probably dealt with is there's two distinct double brokers, I think, in my mind. The ones who are trying to operate what I would call a good double brokering business, and then you have other ones who have no intention of paying the carrier at all. And I've had customers say, "Oh, somebody else is giving me quotes $500 under yours," and I say that's okay, but when you have those trucks pick up, ask the driver how much he's getting paid. If he tells you it's $1,000 more than what you're paying your provider, that is a big red flag. And I had a customer have that happen 3 months ago. They got screwed on $30,000 because this person was not paying the carriers. And because of Carmack law, the carrier always gets paid. So if that happens and you're a shipper, well, those carriers are going to come back to you and say, "We never got paid by your logistics company and you need to pay us," or they're going to go to the receiver. Both of those is going to be a huge, huge issue for that shipper.
Sure, it absolutely will. And the good ones that do it with the brokers will just take the loss. They'll pay for it. They'll get the carriers off their back and they'll handle it. Right. We've had to do that. We've had to pay people off to make it go away for our customer because we didn't want our customer thinking we're not good at our job. Right. So that type of stuff happens. So you do all your stuff from the bedroom, right? You got your Tito's back there. You got the setup. You're relaxed. You're at the house.
Yep.
Do you like remote work better than in-office work? How does that whole structure work within your company?
Yeah, so it's really something I had done remote work in the past. I've done commission only work, so I was kind of used to it. Like I said, we started 2 months before COVID. So before I was even able to get any employees, COVID happened. And then, you're trying to hire people And during COVID, no office is open. Nobody's going to an office. So I started hiring people in, I hired somebody in California, somebody in Florida, somebody in Missouri. So we just kind of hired people all around the country. And then when COVID ended, it's like, well, great. Where do we put our office? And there's not really a good place to put it. So I like remote work. I think remote work is good for most people, but you have to be a self-starter. You have to be self-motivated. You have to be disciplined. If you're not somebody who is a self-starter or disciplined, it can be an issue. And it's taken me a while to get more mature to be able to handle that. But I think at this point, 2022, remote work from a work-life balance standpoint, from a happiness standpoint, employee satisfaction, I think that it's really the way to go nowadays. And I was talking with somebody on LinkedIn not too long ago, and it's an okay analogy, but I brought up the fact that if you're a broker in Arkansas, do you really think that you're going to get all the best talent in your small town of Arkansas? Or do you think that opening it up to the whole country or maybe even the whole world, don't you think you're going to get better talent with it? And you look at, professional sports teams, do all their players come from Los Angeles? No, all their players come from all over the world, wherever they can get the best talent, the best price, the best contract, the best players. Of course, they move to the team's area. But when you're looking at trying to build the best team possible for your clients, I think that having a remote model allows you to find those people in the right places. And even from just a strictly kind of business-minded standpoint, if you're a brokerage in Southern California, you can go spend $150,000 on a good broker in Southern California, or you can go find a good broker in Missouri or Arkansas for half that price. So at the end of the day, it just comes down to what's going to be the most impactful for customers. And a lot of brokerages have beautiful offices, ping pong tables, kegs of beer, all this stuff. I just ask myself, at the end of the day, is that going to move my customer's freight? Is that going to help my customer be better in their business that we have a ping pong table for our employees to play at? I can't really say that does.
Dude, I love that. That was hilarious. But it's because it's so true. It's so true. So many people have that whole mindset that we want to have this environment that people want to come to work and sit in front of a screen and pretend to work for 8 hours. Why not just let people work at their own pace, wherever they're at, getting paid the amount of money they should be getting paid for the cost of living in the part of the country they live in, right? Yeah. So it's really cool. You can take advantage of that. You can grab really good talent from smaller cities in states that don't have as much of a highest cost of living as a California, New York, a Miami, a Houston, a Chicago, stuff like that. Makes a lot of sense. I do appreciate that. Makes a lot of sense. We have everybody in our office, but I think one thing I learned during COVID, I was one of the first ones to bash remote working just because I was one of the guys stuck in an office. And but at the same time, I'm at a point now where taking a step back, I'm trying to mature a little bit more on my emotional comments. And I would say that I think that there's pros and cons to both, and that probably in total, a hybrid model might be the most optimal model to have, with having a brick and mortar spot to get to if you need to for monthly meetings, weekly meetings, or just a spot for people to get away if they don't want to work from home from that day, whatever it might be. People got kids, all that type of stuff. Sometimes people just want to get out of the house.
And I would say,
agree with all that.
I'm currently looking at getting an office space in probably Phoenix or another city, just to bring new salespeople into. That way you can mentor them in person and help them out a little bit more in person. So I think there's definitely value to an office, but I think you're right. A hybrid work setup, I think, is best. Keeping your employees fresh, keeping them happy. My sales guy can go up to Park City, Utah. He can go skiing at night. He can work during the day. Then he doesn't have to take a whole week off and be gone. He's able to recharge those batteries a little bit and kind of have a half work, half play kind of vacation type thing, not use up his vacation time. And he's going to do a better job for me the other 51 weeks a year.
Sure. No, it makes a lot of sense, man. A lot of sense. Well, hey, we got about 3 minutes here. So when I ask you a question, I ask everybody that comes onto the show, especially when it's dealing with business, logistics, sales, whatever it might be. We've all had to start in this industry. I started in 2014. And if I was giving advice to myself when I first started, It would be a lot different than it was at that point in time, and it's changed every year. So the 2022 version of yourself, what would you tell yourself as you're getting started into logistics? What would you tell yourself to do? What type of advice would you give a younger Kyle?
It's a great question. Because when I first got into logistics, I told myself, don't ever start a business in this industry. This is madness. This is crazy. Don't ever do it. So I think that my advice to my old self starting out in 2017 would probably be, keep an open mind. Don't be so closed-minded. Try to absorb as much as you can from the people around you. I think copying is a great thing. A lot of people are embarrassed to say it, but I just copy the high performers that I see in any job, and try to emulate it, and not copy them word for word, script it, but take a little bit from this person, a little bit from this person. Oh, I like what he said here. I like the response to that objection. I like this, and then make it your own. But really, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheels have all been made and invented in every color, shape, size. You just have to figure out what kind of resonates with you, what you like, what equipment type, what kind of freight, what kind of customer, and then just go for it,
Yeah, no, I love that, man. Hey, I believe the Sumerians were the one that actually created the wheel and the plow. So that goes back to like 6,000 BC, man. People even leave that out of the history books, but that's another conversation for another day. But
Yeah.
Kyle, thank you so much, man, for coming on to the show. We'll get you on again when I have a little bit more time. Now that we've done our little intro discovery, we got your origin story. We can dive into some other stuff next time we get you on. So if you ever have something to plug, have something you want to get off your chest, have something you want to say, reach out to me. Let's hop on here. Let's knock out 30 minutes or so and entertain some people. But hey, man, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Thanks, Gunnar. Take care.
Hey, where can people find you real quick?
You can find me Facebook. I'm always on Facebook, LinkedIn, email, phone. Those are the places that I'm on a lot. I mentioned to you Facebook. I'm big into Facebook. Run some big Facebook groups. Power only loads. A lot of you guys watching probably have seen me in there. We got about 45,000 members. I also have some industry specific groups on Facebook. So like I was telling you, Gunnar, 75% of my business probably comes from Facebook. And I know how ridiculous that sounds, but it's really true. There's a lot of great clients and potential clients on Facebook. You just have to get creative about how to find them.
Hey, I'm sorry, I meant to bring that up. So that reminds me, next week, if you're available, let's do another one of these. And let's just talk about your Facebook page. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
That's awesome. Cool. All right, man. Well, hey, I got to bounce. You have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for coming on. Get with me. Let's for real. Next week, let's talk about your Facebook page. And I want to get that out there because that's some good material I need to learn and everybody else needs to hear as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gunnar.
Right.
Take care.
See you, brother. Yeah, man.
Bye.